Another amazing episode of Late Night with Chefs. And tonight we have another amazing guest. Doug, can you please introduce our guest chef of the evening?
Of course. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to another awesome episode. As Truffle Boys said, tonight we have amazing guest chef Ben Diaz out of LA. Definitely quite a few things going on with this chef. First, he has a consulting CBD cuisine that he does, as well as a little taqueria pop up, and is a brand ambassador for a lot of different brands that I know I use every day in the kitchen. So awesome to be able to have you on the show, chef. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for coming on. We actually was interviewing one of your friends last week, Chris Driscoll. He told us about you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
How's he doing?
he's doing well. He had a really interesting story to share with us last week, and it was
Oh,
a
God.
awesome podcast to hear. Yeah,
Awesome energy from them. I
definitely a
love
lot of
everybody
energy.
in the LA. You guys have this awesome swagger to you guys. So it's pretty cool to feel that. And especially, since we are doing this virtually, but we could still, it almost feels like we are all in the same room. So
Definitely.
super excited. Pleasure meeting you. Super excited to have you on our podcast, Late Night with Chefs. Chef, if you can start us off, with, the early ons of what brought you into this world of culinary cuisine, how the Iron Chefs would say it, a la cuisine, what brought you, what made you passionate about this? How did you get in it? What are the stories? We want all the gritty good stuff.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, man. All the good stuff. How about some embarrassing stuff? That sells better, right?
Hey, that's
Oh,
great.
that's the best stuff.
I mean, I think the year was probably 1998, 1999. This is like a lifetime ago now. My dad's a chef for many years, accomplished chef. He's already maybe 15 years retired. He's not the reason I got into the business. He's just kind of the person kind of pushed me more into being in the business afterwards. Um, I always had a passion for cooking. I always loved food. Obviously, if you look at me, I love food. I love what I do. But I was also really good at math and science. So, kind of graduation comes around, high school, thinking about, hey, what am I going to do? Should I be a pharmacist? They make pretty good money. Sit in an office, play with chemicals, do my thing, and have a good time, right? Or I can be a chef, cook it up in the kitchen, make it happen here and there. I'm like, late nights, weekends, uh, at this point in my career, well, in my life, I met this young lady, and what do guys do? They follow the young lady, right? What do
That we
dumbass
do.
guys do?
100%.
Follow the young lady.
That we do.
So, so this young lady in the high school, literally, essentially was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I have no idea. I might take the year off. I might work. I might hang out. I might go travel the world. I have no idea." But I had a huge crush on this one girl for the longest time. I'm like, "What are you gonna do?" Like, I think I'm gonna go to Le Cordon Bleu and learn how to cook. I'm like, you know what? That sounds like an amazing idea. I think I'll go too as well. And boom, started my career.
The
um,
cordon bleu. I love
Got
that.
drawn
yeah,
in.
of the old school of Cordon Bleu right there in Pasadena, back in, oh God, 2000 something, early 2000, 2001 probably. Uh, so talking to this beautiful young lady, right? Guess what? We have different schedules. Oh, okay, great. So she's in the evening class, I'm in the AM class. Okay, great. So I started doing my thing. I started working at the local country club. I think at the time it was Brookside Country Club in Pasadena. There you go. There's your plug. It was an amazing location. I learned a lot from the chef there. It was high volume. My exposure to more to like fast paced, high production things, and at the same time I was going to culinary school, learning the nuance, the finer things here and there. And I'll tell you, when I started culinary school, I didn't know goddamn shit, man. I'll tell you that. I didn't know the difference between parsley, cilantro, basil, mint, marjoram. You name it. I didn't even know what the hell that was.
But
All
isn't
I knew was
that
there was
isn't that sorry, chef, to interrupt you. Isn't that so
yeah.
beautiful though when like you're just like, what? There's a difference? This exists? Like the intriguing part, the mysterious
I
part.
started learning herbs. I'm like, what is this? Just throw in there. What is that? You know? When you talk to me about, oh, what's a parsnip? Like, oh, it's a white carrot. Like, okay,
A white carrot.
or like learning differences of between the onions, difference of garlic. How many different types of chicken there are, different cuts here and there. And just kind of like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You don't you just roast a thing and call it a day? Like, no, there's different baby steps to do certain things. All I knew was how to grill and how to fry. Right? I love fried food and I love grilled food. So, I mean, I pretty much have it there, right? No, totally wrong. I was caught way off guard. Um, if you knew me in culinary school, you would be like, wow, what the hell is this guy doing here? Like, I don't know. I didn't even know what a shallot was. Like, what the hell is a shallot? Like, I didn't even recognize the garlic. I have garlic powder right here. Like, what is this? What is this clove? What is this? Like, man, like, did I do the wrong thing? I think I took the wrong turn around here. I don't know what the hell's going on. So, I mean, that was week one. Week two, making stocks, right? Like, the hell's a stock? Is juice? Like beef juice? Who wants beef and chicken juice? That's nasty. Anyways, going through the whole process, talking to this young girl, we got real close, one thing led to another. Next, it's like, boom, it's over. We probably dated for maybe 3 days and that's it. And I'm like, okay, what the hell now? I'm stuck here now. So after the whole shenanigans, that whole episode, I ended up, diving more into this culinary business. So I was like, okay, let me pick up the actual book they gave me. Like, where's that thing? Like, oh, let me dust it off. Okay. Open chapter 1, stocks, started reading, started doing things here and there, started exploring. And I started asking the questions, the why questions, or how come questions, why do we roast it that way? Why do we do that here and there? Man, my instructors hated me. But I wanted to learn. I wanted to know the reasons why. Why do we make the mirepoix that way? Why don't we do more carrots? Why don't we do more celery? Why do it has to be more predominant, onions? Like asking those questions.
I'm gonna rag on Vlad here, but he was definitely that kid in culinary school. It was
yeah.
Vlad always needed to know why we did anything. And looking back, I definitely see it just how you described it. At the moment you're like, just do it. But you think about it, you're like, no, like asking why is so important. Knowing the reason behind something can help you make so many better decisions about, different situations that you might
100%.
put yourself in the future.
I
And
think,
I think a lot of us, yeah.
as Doug is
No, go
saying
ahead.
that, I'm thinking, I still have yet to have a chef that wants, golden onions or sauteed onions to a certain color, right? Every chef has his like points and he has his points for it, right? Whether it's to bring out that bitterness or sweetness or texture or lack of transparency or whatever, but that's the beauty in it, that it's a recipe, right? It's up to interpretation of the beholder of that recipe. And you know, culinary school is a great tool for us chefs to be open to that world, and take it back from the start, right? I think a lot of chefs that, I've cooked with alongside still don't know, who a Escoffier is and what's the story behind it. And I think us who have studied that are almost so intrigued about that story and how this, bad boy at that time, ran his kitchen and did what he did and documented it to pass it on to, us young, ruthless, hustling, kids that are striving in this game right now.
And that's what it is. It's like you said, you just gotta ask those questions, and that was me. Why do we use this knife? Why don't we use that knife? What happens? Is the chicken gonna fall apart if I use this knife? It was, for me, it was strange. Like, why couldn't I ask these questions? Like, oh, because the book said so. So the book says this. Plenty of books say different things, but we as chefs always go off the hinge. We always go off the playbook. We're constantly changing things left and right. Sometimes I'll forget to add something. I'll add something else. I'll mix it around and be like, oh, that's a new recipe I'm testing out. How do you like that? There's always different ways around it. But culinary school for me was really, really fun. Coming, I think the second leg of my culinary career, it was going into that where I think it was maybe the last semester. It was really, really a lot more fun. That's when we started drinking more wine, having more cocktails, enjoying the fruits of our labor, going to actual production and actually applying what we learned into the real world. So when I went to the country club, I stayed there full time. I think I was there for about 2 years. 2 years, and it was an amazing time. I learned about high volume structure. The food wasn't by all means high end, fine dining here and there, but it was an experience. I learned how to pick up sauces, how to pick up service real quick, how to put out a party of 200 by myself, how to do X, Y, and Z by myself. It made me think of a wider range of, okay, what can I do with this stuff? That country club was amazing. Unfortunately for me, I had to leave because of a certain situation I was in. Now here comes the juicy part for you. It was 2004. I don't know if you guys remember that. USC versus Texas Longhorns, the Rose Bowl game. So I was the chef de cuisine at the time. I already had, sorry guys, I already had been promoted. Thank you.
Yeah.
I, I,
So while you were still in culinary school?
this is after. This is maybe a year afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Like a slight year afterwards. I was in charge of the West Field, and my chef was in charge of the East Field. So I had Texas. So we had about maybe 7,000 Longhorns we had to do food for. Again, by all means, it's not this high end food. It's just roast vegetables, chicken, a couple little things here and there. But we had to prepare days in advance. Lo and behold, after a great service, we all have nice, couple of drinks here and there. Guess what? I'm walking toward to my car. I hop in a golf cart because I have keys to all the golf carts, right? I'm driving again, but this is where I failed. I have my civilian clothes. I'm driving this golf cart. Next thing you know, I see somebody running right beside me. I'm like, what? Who's this? They grab the cart, pull the cart, they jump me off the cart. I'm like, oh, I'm getting jumped here. Like at work. It was the police. It was the cops. They thought I stole that car. So they picked me up and I was like, what? And they're like, oh, you've been drinking? I'm like, no, yes, maybe no. What's the question again? So they pick me up, they throw me in the van, no questions asked. They throw me downtown. I go to the police station. They book me the whole nine. After 3 hours, okay, you can go. I'm like, I didn't even talk to anybody. You guys just threw me in here, took me off of a cart. Basically, I was still at work. I got pulled off at work. Oh man.
Was that right at the end of this event?
At the end of this event, man. But you can imagine all the drunk people walking around, having a good time here and there. These cops, they were over it, dealing with fights left and right. So they didn't want to hear my story.
Yeah.
So they booked me the whole nine here and there. Next thing you know, it's my court date's a week from now. I go to court, I hire a lawyer. They review the tapes. We go, okay, what's the problem? It's thrown out. The whole case is thrown out. Simple as that. It was just like a wash. I got caught up in them like bringing in all the other drawings and all the other like people who were fighting. I got thrown in there, and for me, it was like, what? So you can imagine what kind of embarrassment that was at the time.
Yeah, if they arrested every drunk person in Florida that was on their golf cart, the jails would be really, really full here. That's insane.
Well, yeah, that's the key aspect of it.
I mean, that's a crazy story, but like in the midst of it, when you said I had to feed 7,000 people, my biggest question was, how big of a container of Cambro do you need for a 7,000 people service? And like how are you guys transporting this? Was it like a commissary kitchen, or you guys were cooking like right there? Man. And like, so because you're cooking, I mean, roast chicken and roast vegetables or whatever it is, I mean, that's still that's not 7, a hot dog, that's not 7,000 hot dogs and buns and here's your condiments out of the bag. That's still some level of technique in there.
So the way we kind of concocted this whole thing, we used a lot of leg sands, humongous Queen Marys, and not only that, we started prep 4 days ahead. We called the culinary school. We had an army of maybe over 200 culinary students, and when we got 2 Cisco trucks, put them parked them side by side. They were refrigeration trucks. One had all the produce and all the meats. We were chopping things in that section, then moving it to the other truck. And then we also had mobile kitchens, which we rented out as well, and we would like fire. So we would have a group of 20 people doing vegetables, a group of 20 people, 30 people doing potatoes, and the next group would be doing chicken. So you had a whole army. Everything was foil tins, essentially, like to-go containers here and there. And we had things set up at 30 different buffet lines, but it was all consistently the same exact thing. It probably took maybe a good an hour and a half to get everybody right through. And this was right before the game. So everyone went right through the whole thing, and you can imagine how fast the food was going. It was just like nonstop.
Right. Hot boxes of, half sheet trays, whatever it is, full sheet trays probably. That's insane. I mean, credits to you. I mean, to be thrown into that. Did you have
those little foil containers that you got to press down the edges? I always cut my finger on those. Yeah, that'd be the worst part.
Yeah, so we went through so many of those containers. A lot of stuff broke, fell on the floor, but it didn't matter. If you look at this BO, it was something around like $1.2 million of revenue. And Nelson, back in 2004, that's a lot of money. It still is a lot of money. Yeah. And it was just the machine was just cranking out at that point. And it was one of those points where it's I slept at the property. I slept at the country club for maybe 2 or 3 days straight. We will sleep in the banquet rooms on the floors. Wake up in the middle of the night, start prepping, start getting things done, organized, and we prep and organize so much that when time comes, it's like, okay, it's you're afraid something's gonna go wrong. You're standing there like everything's running pretty smoothly, like something's gonna happen. You're waiting for something to happen, but it never does, and that's the best part. It's like you did all the hard work, and now it's seamlessly moving through the whole process, and that
Now,
was wow.
with
Incredible.
those type of events, obviously nothing gets 86. What usually happens, with the leftovers or that, or is there leftovers?
Oh God, there was leftovers for days, for weeks. Afterwards, we looked at like, a couple of hot boxes, a couple of Queen Marys. Oh, it's not so bad. We have enough food for next 2 days. One of my guys is like, what about the trailer in the back? I'm like, what? Yeah, he's the trailer in the back is still full to the ceiling with food. I'm like, Christ. Like, okay. So at that point, the chef and I made a decision. Okay, let's call the local charities. Let's call the churches. Let's start donating that food. So we started pumping that stuff out. A lot of people came over, picked it up, and then a lot of it is we also just dropped it off ourselves. But at that point, like I said, you can't 86 anything. How are you gonna explain to all these thousands of people came to this game like, oh, I don't have any more potatoes, sorry. Like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. And I wasn't about to go to Restaurant Depot and ask for like 2 pallets of potatoes. Yeah, that would have been a different story.
Right, there's no cooking on the fly at that point.
There is no cooking on the fly. It's a lot of retherming and making sure things perfect at that right moment.
And that's the thing, like even me, I eat different amounts every day. So I don't know, and you always have to over assume, right? How much you bring. You got to be over prepared for anybody.
Hungry football fans.
So that's really awesome that you go, from culinary school to applying all the knowledge that you learn and then going straight to feeding 7,000 people, which is like a huge operation within of itself. And if you can kind of just visualize for me, what's the area like, what city, what was making waves at that time, if there was any local chefs or anything that was really inspiring you, to keep staying hungry.
I mean, at that time, there was a couple of chefs coming up, and it was one of those signs where things were happening, and the city had the Michelin guild in town. So you see a lot of these high-end shops popping here and there, a lot of different stuff. You see a lot of the old school shops that were around. I don't know if you guys remember the old Seafood King house or Fish King house, whatever you want to call it. They actually had a Michelin star. I think they had 2 Michelin stars, one in downtown LA. That's a chain restaurant. I'm not sure if you know that. So that's a chain restaurant, and they had 2 Michelin stars, and they had an amazing chef working them for years. I mean, this was like the time of opportunity. If you wanted it, you seized it. You went out there and you got it yourself, and you made it happen. And that for me was like great. Now it's the time for me to kind of expand, explore what I know. And that kind of kicked off my career of doing catering, career of doing events, competitions, and kind of start traveling all up and down the West Coast, cross country, internationally, to get kind of all this exposure. I wasn't saying that I was a top chef back then, but it's going and meeting these guys and talking to these guys, it became a thing. Back in the day when I was talking to my instructors, or even my dad or other chefs, older chefs, it's like you can never go up to a chef like you and I and ask him, hey, what do you put in those mashed potatoes, or what do you put in that sauce? Like, they'll tell you to go fuck off. Nowadays it's like, oh yeah, come here, you want to learn? Yeah, come here. This is what you do. So and so. This is how we do it, and this is the reason I do it. He goes, you like that? Okay, try it this way and see how that works out for you. Now it's if I need a recipe, if I don't know how to do something, if I'm like, man, I can't get those potatoes right, or I can't get this, this prime rib right. You know what? Let me call the truffle boy, see what he has. Hey man, what kind of brine do you have? Like, here you go, man. It works perfectly for me.
Hit him up on the DM and get his spiceology recipe.
I love that you just said that, because a lot of recipes that you get online, I don't know who wrote them, but they're like trash. And those recipes that I haven't scribbled into my little 1,000 notebooks in the these small pages that Doug was like, wow, bro, that's hideous. I don't know how you do this. But I'll have recipes that I know are gonna work. They're by the gram, they're weighted out, they're tried and true, they taste good, to the salt even. You know what I mean? And that's incredible, the amount of peer-to-peer and the accessibility of that we have nowadays. And it's an amazing tool. And I love that you bring it up, so we make more people aware of that everybody does it. I know my chef, even Giuseppe, I would see him texting Graham Elliott or, Curtis Duffy for how would you do this, or different takes, right? Different perspectives. There's so many things nowadays. It's almost hard to be new and revolutionary, but you do it in your own style.
No, yeah, 100%. And then I love the fact that you said, you do everything to the gram. I've been doing that for the past couple of years because I've done events, I've gone to Jamaica, Vancouver, Oaxaca. These are different altitudes, man. Especially if you're doing baking, what you do at at 3 feet doesn't translate at 40,000 feet. The altitude really messes you up really bad. A lot of people don't think that or don't realize that, but a lot of the recipes have to be precise and you have to double check what you're doing when you get to those altitudes. It's crazy.
Definitely. I had an experience once. There's a restaurant in Chicago, Signature Room on the 96th, and it's the 96th floor of the John Hancock, I believe, in Chicago. And I went up there and did a stage, and everything was just so much faster. The water was boiling faster, the pans were hotter faster, and just being 96 stories up, I could tell a difference. So I can only imagine being in the U.S. we have Colorado, but any of those places you mentioned, Vancouver, Oaxaca.
Well, you also got to remember your senses change too. The flavor profile, your palate changes. You're tasting different things. I almost died in Oaxaca. I went on a nice hike to Guadalajara, and I went downhill. Coming back up here, I couldn't breathe, man. It was like breathing air through a straw. A buddy of mine next to me is like, "You okay?" He goes, "You're turning purple." I'm like, "Fuck you, leave me alone. I'm dying here." He's like, "You need water?" He's like, "Drink water." I'm like, "I don't need water, dude. I can't breathe." I'm like, "We're trying to eat this. I'm dying. I'm sitting here. I'm looking at our guide who's wearing a tank top and sandals, and just like looking at me like, "You okay?" I'm like, "No, dude, I'm dying." It's just a whole different world scenario.
I don't need water. I just need air.
Right? It's just like at that point, it's like everybody just leave me the fuck alone. I'm focused on my breathing right now.
I'm trying to do my classes. I'm like, oh, okay, come on, like stay alive, stay alive. I'm not dying on a rock tonight,
I love that.
Go ahead.
So I have to ask, Chef. So you graduated Le Cordon Bleu. Was it hard to stay there with having that past experience? Was any part of you like, I need to get out of here, I need to leave Le Cordon Bleu? What made you stay during that? Was it instructors that you had there?
Well, for me, it was something new, something different. And again, a lot of people, when I speak to a lot of different cooks, even a lot of chefs, like, oh, I don't go to culinary school. I learned through work with so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, great, that's amazing. For me, I didn't have that. I didn't work for Michelin star chef. I didn't work for a fine dining place. I had to learn on my own. I had to go figure things out and ask people. And again, right, like I said before, right when I started, you were barely able to do that. I was able to come to you and say, hey, can I get a recipe for this? And you're like, I really don't know you, but okay, I'll give you something that I use that I don't use anymore. You will give me your leftover recipes, but I needed that because I didn't know nothing. I didn't understand anything, and I didn't have anybody who wanted to teach me that. The only person who wanted to teach me was my dad, and again, he was limited with the things he can teach me and the stuff he was doing at work as well. So for me, it is a good learning experience. Yes, you can learn what you can in the industry just by grinding and doing different things. But what I tell people, you go to culinary school for about 1.5 to 2 years. That cuts your time in the industry by 5 years. Everything that I learned in the industry in 5 years, I learned it in culinary school because it's jam-packed. It's just, like you're learning the basics and you're going through it real quick. Okay, this is why you do this, why you do that, here and there. It was better for me than learning by trial and error and by asking multiple people, hey, how about this? How about that? Because at the end of the day, I need to be able to stand on my own 2 feet.
I love that. And I love to do a little compare and compare. Me and Doug went to community college. You went to Le Cordon Bleu. What were the classes like? Were in the meat classes or in the poultry classes, did you individually all get a bird, or did you guys have to split it? How hands on it? How big were the classes? Did you feel like you were able to really connect with the instructors and get their background and like get motivated by what they have done? And how was that kind of experience putting ourselves back in those shoes of like freshman, sophomore year of culinary school?
All right, let me give you 2 different perspectives. The first semester I went to culinary school, it was actually the California School of Culinary Arts. The second semester I transitioned to Le Cordon Bleu. So we had people wearing the the cordon bleu logo, and other people would have,
Did you guys have to wear the
oh,
handkerchiefs?
we wear the white handkerchief, yes, and that's how I learned how to tie my tie. I learned how to tie a tie in 10 seconds because of that. Chef will not let you in the class if you didn't have your handkerchief. You get 1, 2, like, it's on, I'm in, So,
I'm not late.
that's one thing I took away from culinary school is learning how to tie a tie. I'll tell you that right now. But when I started, again, California School of Culinary Arts, yes, we all had our own individual stations. So you had 6 burners and 1 oven, or you'll share that oven. They'll give you maybe about a 6-foot table, and you would have your own tools, equipment here and there, yada, yada, yada. But again, this was when I was going, and there was maybe 20 people in my class. And then the class next to us, which was in the same unit or in the same classroom, had another 20. So 40 students in one humongous building, but everyone had their stations. Now, going to the second semester, that changed. It became more corporate, more money driven. So the classes almost doubled. It was 60, 70 people. And then again, now we had to share different things, Okay, who's going to fabricate the bird and who's going to skin the fish? Oh, well, why can't I do both? I need to learn both of those things, right? Well, no, you got to pick one because you only have one thing for each of you. It became one of those things, scenarios where you're like, oh, okay, great. So we went from a great school to a for-profit school. Sorry about that.
Right.
But that's how you learn the distinction. The schooling was still the same. The instructions were still great, were still amazing. But again, we had the stainless steel tilt mirror. You remember those?
I love
Yes. On top of the
the beautiful one.
Are you guys all seeing this?
that was amazing, and everything was backwards, right?
Right.
I stop by the culinary school now once in a while because I'm on a couple of boards for different schools, and these guys have computers. They have big screens, and I'm like, what the? Like, are you kidding me? You have your own 20-inch TV, and somebody that's showing you how to do it one-on-one. Like, what the hell is this? It's like, that's insane. My second day culinary school, somebody cut their thumb off. And I was like, okay, wipe that off. Next person, like, oh shit. And I'm like, okay. Like, all right, that's how we roll here. That's cool. Nowadays, everybody's wearing glasses because they can't cut onions. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God, if I would ever see that, that would just grind my gears.
They're wearing goggles.
Oh,
I'm like, you wearing
God.
goggles? I'm over here with the onion. I'm like, look at this. Nothing's going on.
Just the memories that I look like. You just brought me back to my culinary days of just like, just putting way too much salt in the bread and it turning out like shit, and like all those little mess ups that you ate. You made it and you ate it, and and you would taste other people's stuff and you'd be like, okay, so maybe I put a little bit, too much of this, but that just amazing like vibe that you get in culinary school, and the amount that they let you kind of fail on your own and learn from your own mistakes. I think that's really important for anybody to go through in the culinary game. Yeah,
I mean, like we said earlier, you think my chef will let me fail like that at work? You think he'll let me get a couple of tries on that fillet? Oh hell no! The first thing I'll do is like, hey, come here real quick. I got a little fillet for you. It's like there's no way I can practice that stuff in the business. And that's why I went to culinary school, because I could make those mistakes. I learned from those mistakes. I couldn't get a foie gras and then go through 3 lobes at work. Like the chef's like, hey, what's the foie gras? Like, I made a puree over there because I was trying to sear everything and it didn't work out. Like, no, I picked out like so hard, you don't even know which way is up.
I remember I was working for a Michelin chef at the time, and while I was going to school towards the end, and he told me, he's like, what the fuck do you do all day at school? Because you come here and you mess up. You're supposed to make all the mistakes at school and stop costing me money every time you come in this kitchen. And still to that day, it reminds you that like, whenever we do take on, someone who's green in the industry or a brand new cook, it's really making an investment more than just paying their salary. We know they're going to screw up that steak. We know that they're going to have to, refire that fish or, refire that fillet. And it's about like, all right, let's just get these fries down right. And that's why we have those stages. But it is really an investment bringing someone up green like that.
Oh yeah, you're gonna spend a lot more money. I mean, currently I can tell you this, man. Maybe 10 years ago, I used to tell everybody, no, if you want to work for me, you have to have minimum 7 years experience. It has to be high end place. Now what I look for is somebody who's open-minded. Like, hey, you're open-minded and you're open to interpretation and you're open to criticism. That's what I want. Why? Because that's the person who's gonna learn. That's the person who's gonna take everything, down and write everything down, and it's gonna learn really well. somebody who comes in here who thinks they know everything, they're not going to take that, right off the bat. They're going to, oh, well, no, I work with so-and-so, like, let me name drop right now. I worked at, Melise, I worked at, I work with Dominic Cran and all that stuff like that. We did it this way. I'm like, okay, great. But you're here now. This is how we do things here and there, and you're doing it wrong. It may be great over there, but here we need something done differently. And that's what people don't understand. It needs somebody who's going to be open-minded, is to take criticism like appropriately and learn from it. If you have somebody coming in here and you tell them, oh, that's not how you make a miracle, then what? It's gonna make your life a lot harder.
I used to be that guy going around kitchens and doing that till I had to be the sous chef that had to be like, had it done to him, And it's like, there's that lack of respect, I feel like, nowadays, where like, they think they know it all because they worked here and there, but like, it's not like they became sous chef there, and there's a reason they left there, and there's a reason they're here now, and this is the system of this kitchen, and everybody does it differently. And I think it, going back to my earlier points, is every chef has its own specific things because he likes to bring out its own characteristics and perspectives. But it's it's almost like those naive chefs are some of the best chefs, because you really can, if you can really get to them, you can really mold them into something really special, I feel like.
Yeah, and then they can take it upon themselves to kind of grow and expand and make something big, because they're like, oh, this person's actually taking an interest in me. This person's taking time out of the day to teach me and show me how to do things the right way, show me stuff that I never knew how to do. And that's what people did for me. It's not a great, amazing chef. When I was working at McCormick Schmick's years ago, his name is Masa Ose. He's still an amazing chef. He still does great work. He's based out of Orange County. And this guy showed me, a lot of, how to use umami flavors, how to use different textures and here and there. And because of him, when I present a puree, I never present a puree by itself. Always has some kind of texture, either a crunchy bit or something different. Why? Because you want to amuse the mouth, right? Amuse bouche. And same thing. That's why I use a lot of soy sauce, or I use a lot of different flavoring agents to kind of enhance that. I like using glucose in my sauces. Why? Because it's way better than butter. First of all, it gives a better sheen and it holds a lot longer. And your sauce looks great. It's never breaking. It's not separating. It doesn't look fatty. But you have that great quality. You have that great, palate coating, and it's flavorful. It's amazing.
I love that. The fact that you said about glucose, because I have never looked at glucose like that, and then you just like 360'd me, and I'm like, holy shit, that makes so much sense. And now I almost understand why, I've used it in some recipes that I've had to, during the kitchens times in kitchens that I've worked in. So I love that, and I love like all the stuff we've been talking about. Just having such a pleasure having you on, and just the way you're describing everything is just amazing, and truly able to connect, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's so smart that we talk about we've talked about it before in other episodes, but that injustice of believing, going somewhere and not realizing that everybody has something to give you. So, if you don't think you can learn from that person, or, your time there is done, then, go somewhere else. But every time you start a new opportunity, you have to stay open-minded. You have to think, okay, what can I learn here? What am I going to be able to bring from this experience to other experiences? And it's definitely injustice that I've seen in kitchens with young cooks. And I think it's awesome to sort of, reiterate that again and talk to all of our viewers and those people just kind of starting out in the industry.
Yeah, whether I learned something good or something bad, it's an experience. I worked at shitty ass kitchens, and I had some really, more currently, some really off the wall interviews and some crazy shit. I'm like, wow, I think I must have had one of the worst interviews in the past 10 years, this couple of weeks. And I'm like, well, okay, I almost walked out on this gentleman, but I'm like, okay, this is a learning experience for me. Okay, don't, go and get into this situation again. But for me, it was quite interesting, the conversation I had with this gentleman. He's asking me a couple opinionated questions. And I say, oh, or what would you do in this scenario? Well, okay, well, this is what I would do based on past experience, what's worked for me. I would do this. And this gentleman, this chef would be like, oh, no, that's wrong. I'm like, he's like, I would do this. I'm like, okay, great, I understand that, but you're asking me what I would do in that situation, and I'm telling you this is what I would do because this is the outcome I've had before and it worked for me. If that works for you, then great. And then it was also bait and switch on me. I was talking to the CEO of this company. It's a nice little company. It's a boutique wine shop that has kind of like taco style food. I was corresponding with the CEO back and forth here and there. I'm like, okay, great. CEO's like, come in and we'll talk. We'll sit down. Great. I go in there and I'm speaking to the chef. I'm like, okay. Total bait and switch. I'm like, I thought I was interviewing with this guy. Now I'm interviewing with this guy. So it's a total 360. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So as soon as I sit down and talk to this gentleman, talk to the chef, I can already know off the bat, just by his demeanor, the way he's talking to me, like he has no interest. I'm like, okay, great. Let me just see where this goes. It's at this point, I've already given up hope, but I'm already dressed. I already came down here. I'm gonna waste his time as much as my time is wasted here.
I've been in those interviews.
But that's why I figured, man.
What's like that frequency in the room at that point? Because I've personally never been in those interviews. I always have to
just like what else is gonna come out of this person's mouth? You're just waiting.
You're sitting there and you're just like, okay.
But is that like a corporate environment that like these chefs bring onto you, like with these questions? Is that like a norm in that corporate environment, or?
Well, no, you know what it is? I think a lot of the chefs and a lot of people have this issue. I had this issue years ago, and thankfully I'm trying to correct it now. Don't correct me of anything, but we're not people. We don't speak to people in appropriate manners. I have chefs talk shit to me. I have other people talk shit to me. Even my cooks talk shit to each other. Don't even know how to speak to each other properly. And I've been trying to change that. I've taken, management courses, psychology courses, HR courses. And again, chefs are not the best when they interview people. I mean, I think you can agree with me on that. It's sometimes when we talk to people, we're like, I need this, I need that. Like, you're gonna work this? Then cool, I'll hire you right now. Not that it's not gonna work out. It's like, bro, like you're not even giving me an opportunity to respond to anything. You're basically telling me it is what it is, and that's it. Take it or leave it. And it's like, okay.
That's definitely not a conversation at that point.
It's not a conversation. It's just more like hey, how's it going? You like the restaurant? You saw it? Cool. You know what we do? Yes, okay. I need somebody to work these hours at this rate, so and so. Can you do this or not? Okay. And I know that because I've done that. I've done those interviews. I give those interviews. But now it's more like, hey, how are you? Like, Doug, how are you? Like, okay, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? What you like doing on your separate time besides cooking here and there? Hey, great. Oh, you like fishing? Oh, that's amazing. What's the last thing you caught? Where'd you go? Where do you like hanging out? I want to know what makes you tick and why do you want to come to work? I want you to come to work happy, and I want to understand, how you work. Why? Because then that's giving me a better understanding of what I can and cannot tell you or cannot give you. So when we're in the shit, I understand, okay, Doug's gonna come through because he understands how to do this and that, and he has patience for it. Because I don't want you to just like walk out after the shit hits the fan, like, it's too busy.
Do you think as times are changing and society's evolving, this kind of like stress-free illusion exists nowadays that jobs should be stress-free, life should be stress-free. But like, if you're really a go-getter, if you're really putting yourself in the weeds, if you're really pushing yourself to those limits, I believe it should be stressful. And because it's stressful, you reap the benefits of it. But there's so much of that, hey, James, go do what you want. If they yell at you, quit. We'll pay for your apartment. Not a problem. Oh, car rent, we'll take care of it. And, so much of that softness where, when you're in a kitchen, you're cooking for however many people, there's always something to improve upon. There's always, a step further to take it. There's always, a gasket to clean, reorganize the cooler, retake inventory.
Oh, yeah.
I find that, like, I can't see a lot of, us younger culinarians being as accountable as I think some of the OGs and some of the people that have been in the game and have done it, and they're like, this is why we do it. I know why we have to do it, and we're going to do it.
So one thing that I do and I've been doing lately, it's especially with my stewards, dishwashers, is I only have them cleaning dishes, pots, and pans, and not the stations and not the walk-ins. I actually make a list for all the cooks and prep cooks. Hey, today you're cleaning this. Today you're doing this. Tomorrow you're doing X, Y, and Z. Every single night, my cooks get on their stations. They take the hoods down. They clean the whole back. They clean the hoods. They clean the grates. They clean the grill, their whole stations. And I make like a family. So for example, if Doug's over there and he's done on pantry, all right, I'm out. Like, no. You're not done. You're not done. All you guys stay here and all of you guys clean. and you leave at the same time. So if you have a hot date tonight, then dude, you better help Steve. You better help Mike over there finish on that grill. Why? Because you guys don't leave until I do a final walkthrough. And then that's how I instill, that passion in them. They're cleaning their stations, they're cleaning everything out, cleaning the gaskets here and there. I go through there, I look at everything here and there. Once in a while, I'll fuck with them. I'll take a flashlight on, like, what is that shit? Like, oh hell no, we're all staying here for another hour. Like clean up, But it gives them that pride, it gives them that purpose. They come in and they can't say, who the fuck closed last night? Oh wait, that was me. Damn. It gives you that sense of pleasure. And then also at the same time, it keeps your dishwasher focused on making sure those pans are good. The plates are not, they don't have that film on it. Everything's clean. And it's, and it also gives you that idea that, I don't know if you ever see this, cooks, they wipe things and they throw on the floor. Why? Because they're not cleaning it up. In my kitchens, these guys don't do that. You better believe it. They get the towel, they throw in the trash. Why? Because they're sweeping and they're mopping, at night. At the end of the shift, if they want to do that, then that's by all means, you're cleaning that up. The best part is throughout the shift, as the shift is kind of mellowing down, like around 10:30 at night, my lead guys would send, for example, be like, hey Doug, go to the prep area and clean that up and start cleaning there, so we can leave already. Like we'll get the main station. Like they start delegating work to each other. They can see how the flow of business is going. Like, okay, we can get out early tonight. Somebody go clean the walk-in. You go do the dish pit. You go do the main line. I'll do this, and it's great. You start seeing it's like a machine. It's like a family. They start cleaning here and there. Boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, it's like 10:30. We're closed. Everybody's home by 11, or everybody's at the bar by 11. About it. But it's a great feeling. I can't describe it.
I love that, and it's something that resonates really big with me. I was working at a well-known corporate place called Disney in Florida, and I was the chef of one of their resorts over on the East Coast, and they wanted to bring in a third-party cleaning crew to kind of take care of things at night, and that was one of my biggest reservations and why I pushed against it as much as I could. I don't know what they do now, but to be able to have that sort of camaraderie, and that was my exact rules. Same thing. We all start together. We're all here at 2:30 for pre-shift. Everyone's ready for service at 5. And once the restaurant closes at 9, everyone's breaking down at 9:30. And exactly the same thing. Everyone leaves at 10:30, and that sort of team, just like you described it, it's really prideful as a chef. I think that's like one of the great moments that I've had being a chef is when you develop this well-oiled machine and you get 4 different people's personalities to sort of interjive with each other. And, obviously there's always, this person didn't set up that station, but, navigating that. And like we kind of talked about a little bit before is, figuring out who that person is as an actual person outside of the job is one of the best ways to be able to create that well-oiled machine and know how each little part is going to work. And if this part interacts with that part, as people, what's the connection going to be there? Are they going to jive? Is heads going to butt? It's definitely like we talk about chefs as being these like great conductor engineers, and it definitely resonates with that.
Well, especially now with COVID, it's everybody has to be able to do 6 to 7 different jobs, and it's simple as that because we have less staff in the kitchen, more cost items, less control. So we need to be able to do what we do and do it right and do it appropriately. And I saw that, especially when I closed down the hotel and I had to reopen it. I opened it with maybe a quarter of my staff, and we were still doing all this great high-end cuisine, still doing all the deep clean, keeping track of it. It just became, I don't want to say harder, but it became an eye-opening experience where it's like, wow, this business has changed and it's going to continue to change. And then plus, with all the new laws, regulations coming out, it's just, our industry is just, what's the best word? It's really fucked. You really have to have a passion for this business to continuously do this. And that's something that it's
right. And the stress around like hearing everybody else who are outside your industry talk about the industry and say, how doomed it is. They're like, oh, what are you going to do?
I'm glad I'm not a chef right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you still going to be a chef? Are you still a chef? Are you still in business? Like, all of that heat is coming in as well right now. And it's like,
it wasn't already stressful enough.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's crazy. Yeah. But I do have this one thought that I kind of just want to compare since I'm on this comparing streak. But I thought it's pretty crazy that, Doug had, people coming in at 2:30 in a corporate world to start a shift at 5, and I know we would come in at, 12 or 1. And I know you kind of got a little leap ahead of us in the game. How was that like? If you had to be there at 12, were you coming in at, you know, were you coming in earlier? Were you working off the clock? Did you catch that time?
I mean, for me, honestly, I always wanted to learn and kind of explore more, and I always figured out if I come in early on my own time, I can always learn more and figure more things out. If I want to do pastries and learn how to frost a cake, how to bake certain things, how to do like some kind of fondant work, I would come in an hour early before my shift and hang out with the pastry shop and do things here and there just to help out. Why? Because I'm off the clock. It's helping him out. It's gonna teach me how to do certain things. Cool, cool. It's gonna help me better myself to do something else. And it's the same thing. When I used to open up the line, I used to be a line cook. I used to come in all the time, like an hour ahead, just hang out there, and that also shows the chef that you're prideful. You want to learn more. You want to be here more. He's not necessarily going to pay you for that time he came in early, or tell you to clock in or allow you to clock in, but it shows, hey, I'm here.
But you get paid in that knowledge, right? That you get, and that that intimacy,
Exactly.
right? That
I think a lot of that thing is lost nowadays. I don't see a lot of people coming in early, man. Even like my sous chefs, I'm like, hey man, come in so and so. They come in 5 minutes late. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I'm like, what if I was dying and shit fucking 5 minutes ago? You weren't here. Like I don't like being over dramatic with them, but like, come on, guys. I scheduled you here to be here at a certain time. I'm here an hour before my time, and you're here 5 minutes after your fucking time. Like, what kind of shit is that? Who's the chef? What's going on? But I guess, like I said, nowadays these kids, it's different. It's a whole different story, a whole different ball game. You can't say certain things anymore, and a lot of stuff. It's like, okay, how can I ask for something? I can't even say shit in the kitchen anymore. I still say butt fuck shit, everything, but still, it's open to interpretation, right?
It's definitely a different world we live in, and we talked actually a little bit about this sort of cultural, or not cultural, but age gap, and as far as that grit. And we talked about it with Jeremiah Tower, and he noticed the same thing, kind of being in the business in the early 2000s, and then taking a hiatus and coming back in 2014, and nonetheless coming back to New York. And so I'm sure he told us that he was expecting that same level of commitment and grit and dedication to the craft, and the hours spent, and just the physical brutalness that is our industry. And completely different class that he got. All of his cooks were very much they felt like they were entitled to something. They wanted to voice their opinions on every situation, and complete 360 of where we came from.
Yeah, the industry has changed a lot. It's a piece of change. I mean, and just with COVID, a lot of different things are going to change again. I know a lot of my cooks that I had for past years, they're no longer in the business anymore. They had to adapt. A lot of these guys are doing construction. A lot of these guys are doing other office works. It's just a shame, to ask them, hey man, when things get better and reopen, you're going to come back. And a lot of them say no. I'm like, no, it's like, I already have a good thing here. I'm selling insurance, or I'm doing real estate, or I'm doing construction. It's better for me right now. It's better for my family.
Isn't that crazy? But that's like the hard reality right now, is that we lost a lot of amazing people who could potentially, be the next, rising chef, next 3 Michelin star chef, and whatever nominations that you can put on a chef. But I think we really took a toll on like a lot of creative minds that were just not able or in the position to fight this fight. It's been almost a year. We're back in March. I think we can say a year, right? And it's like it's still not back to normalcy. There's Even though it's starting back up and weather is getting better and things are shiny and you hear less on the news, like the reality is like
Texas is being our guinea pigs.
I think Drake released a great record on like what's next. I think that's a great question in every chef's mind right now who's hungry, is like, what can I do next? What is the next thing? How do we get over this? How do we come back? How do we come back stronger than ever? Like, I think I've seen over the past month, the egos and like all of that change into like such positive, hungry, ambitious, people are willing to take risks again, I think, as chefs, and reopen and show what they really are, and not, serving delivery to go hamburgers or meatloaves or reheat dinners and what we had to do and sacrifice to slow the burning of the cash flow and all of that, and get some jobs back and retain some talent.
Well, the thing nowadays, it's our industry has been impacted so dramatic that you're seeing you're seeing the repercussions of it, man. I see a lot of great jobs that were offering over 100K, only offering 75 now. And that's the reality. I interviewed a couple places here and there. They're only offering like half my salary, but double the work. They're like, oh yeah, we expect you to be here 6 days. The chef has to work at least 12 hours a day, work the line, do this, banquets, so and so, and you don't have a sous chef, and we're only paying this much with no bonuses, no structure, and you got to find your own parking. I mean, I know, like you said, in New York, it's like parking's everything, and it's incredible. It's amazing. It's like these people expect the world, and they don't give you anything in return. It's like the age of chefs making over 100,000, 120,000. It's gone. We're back to the Stone Age where we're making 75, maybe 80 if you're lucky, and that's crazy to me. You know, it's the fact that we come a long way to just flip back right away. It's insane. In 1 year.
Yeah, let's hope that normalcy returns at some point. But I think this will be a devastating impact for probably 2 or 3 years to come. But hitting a little bit about that and about COVID, give us a little bit about your story, and did you have to pivot at all during COVID, or what are times like for you right now during this?
Oh man. So I started working at the hotel 2 months before COVID hit. At that point it was just a whisper, like, oh, something's happening, in Asia, something right there. It wasn't, it wasn't a global pandemic. At that point it was regional. It was actually an epidemic, I think, before it became a pandemic. It was a couple of whispers like blah blah blah. The GM was always adamant, like, it's gonna come here, it's gonna hit here. Watch, we gotta prepare ourselves. Everybody's like, you're crazy, blah blah. You having one of those crazy dreams. Next thing you know, a week happens. Oh wow, the first case is here in the U.S. Another day, oh my God, a couple hundred people. Oh, now 1,000. Next thing you know, the zombies are rising. We get a notice from the president, a notice from the governor. We're shutting all dining. And everybody's like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, nobody's going to eat. Nobody's doing anything. It's like crazy. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And I literally started this job, and everybody's like, we're shutting down. Hotels closing down. We're doing this and that. It's like, fire all your staff, get rid of the food, close everything down. I'm just like, fucking funny, hilarious, huh? Like, no, you have 3 days. I'm like, what do you mean I have 3 days? So in those 3 days, I kind of sat down and I kind of took a step back, and I looked at my life differently. Like, okay, there has to be a better way. So I started coming up with some ideas. I turned our restaurant into a grocery store, a farmer's market. We went outside, we laid out a bunch of tables out, a bunch of racks here and there, and we started selling the product. Um, with that, we started keeping the staff a little longer, cleaning, de-cleaning everything, because the place hasn't been clean in 10 years. So we started de-cleaning, taking everything apart. Ownership actually started making money off of us selling the stuff. So instead of closing in 3 days, we ended up closing in 3 weeks. So I was able to save maybe 10 of my employees' jobs, including myself, and also still order more product. Why? Because we were ordering eggs, milk here and there. We were doing farmers market boxes, and all these boxes had, like, of course, your standard. You had your $50 box, your $100 box, or your $200 box. But every box came with toilet paper and bleach and here and there. Why? What do you have? What do you have in abundance in a hotel? Tons of toilet paper everywhere, right? And at this point, people were hoarding like it was gold. So we decided, you know what? We're going to start putting toilet paper in here and there. We made the local news, the newspaper here and there, which wasn't, on purpose. It was a total great side effect of doing this. Great business proposal for us. And then when we did close down, ownership saw that I did a lot to kind of make it happen. So they came on board for 2 days out of the week. So I was on board for 2 days out of the week as consultant. So I was on calls, I was working on menus here and there. Next thing you know, a couple of months later, hey, we're reopening. I'm like, great. So when are we opening? We're opening at this time. We have 2 months. Don't worry about it. Okay, cool. 2 months. Next thing you know, it's like, hey, actually, we want to open at the end of the month. I'm like, great. So I went from 8 weeks to about 4 weeks. Awesome. So at this point, I think I probably only brought back 2 of the original staff members who showed a lot of passion and initiative. The rest of it was people that I've known throughout the years who worked for me, who bled for me, and who took my shit for the longest time, and who I know would take my shit and call it caviar. And those people came on board. And of course, it was a small, knit tight group, created a beautiful menu. We started getting great traction. Our Yelp reviews went from 3.5 stars to 4.5 stars. Same thing on Open Table. We boom, boom, boom. Started getting all these great reviews. Here and there, we started making money. People were coming down. It was a great place. All those people that we supported during the first shutdown, all the local businesses and all the local community came out and showed support. And it kind of really blew it up. It made humongous. And then guess what? Round 2 hit. I'm like, holy shit, we're closing down again. And the second closure was difficult. You know, it was hard. I had to do the same thing. How do I tell somebody like, hey man, you know, I know I just brought you back. I know I got you off of unemployment. I know I got you off of EDD, which took us weeks to get on, and then you have to go back on. And you know, it's like, I'm sorry, man. You know, it's at this point, it's like we're playing with people's lives, and you can't do that. And we started the shutdown again and started doing the whole thing, the whole process. At this point, it was kind of funny because when I found out we were shutting down, the very next day, it's talked to the owners or the GM and basically getting a promotion. Hey, we want you to oversee both hotels through the shutdown. So then that way, you know, when we reopen in a couple of weeks, you can run both of them. Like, oh, I'm like corporate chef. I'm like, oh, like we'll talk about that. I'm like, oh, corporate chef. You know, yeah, you know, I'm dancing. All right, well, at least that's something good, right? No, that lasted all about 6 hours since the governor spoke. Like, we're indefinitely shutting down. I'm like, oh, Christ. Like, thanks, governor.
You killed my promotion.
I'm like, thanks. I was promoted for about 6 hours. That was amazing. And then after that, yeah, you know, it's I was let go again. I think for the second or third time in that year from that same company. Um, and ever since I've been doing, you know, some meal preps for a couple of clients, a couple of events that I have. I've been doing a couple of meal preps, some off the hinge catering, a couple of the little side projects, consulting work as well. But kind of keeping low, you know, keeping a low profile. To tell you that, you know, that I'm afraid of COVID, yes. You know, that it's impacted my life, you know, somewhat. You know, my father got COVID a couple of weeks ago. Thankfully, he recovered. It was like nothing, you know. He had COVID and he was just kind of like speaking like a little scratch. It was more like a sore throat. After like a week and a half, he was fine. But then, you know, I had a couple of friends. You know, I have one of these guys who was a server in Anaheim that I knew years ago who got COVID and died. And then same thing, another one of the guys that one of my line cooks that had worked for me for years. You know, this guy was a healthy nut. He used to go running, hiking, you know, all that crazy stuff, all the fucking extreme shit. You know, and he died off of it. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, look at me. I fucking drink. I do crazy shit. Like, oh god. Like, imagine me. I'm like, damn. I'm over here. I sneeze. I'm like, oh god, I'm dying. I have COVID. You know, it's like over panic, overselling of everything. You know, it's just a different world. You know, but now that things have kind of settled down, calmed down, it's will I go back to the hotel? I don't know. The last I spoke to ownership was they're opening the room sometime at the end of this month or next month. I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure about the food and beverage side yet.
So are things in LA are still pretty shut down right now? Because, you know, here in Chicago, we're starting to kind of sit people inside and indoors, and all that is starting to reopen and flourish.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the same boat. They open outdoor dining, and they're just announced that you can do indoor dining with limited, I think, 20% or so on and so forth. They're still working out the kinks, but they're making all these announcements. The governor's supposed to announce or did announce. Again, I don't. I stopped watching the news after, you know, every single day was about COVID. I was just like, okay, same thing. I guess we're supposed to go back to like baseball games, you know, go to movie theaters, go to all these sports games. I guess we can do that now, I think, but I'm not quite sure. And again, you know, it costs a lot of money. I think to open up the hotel, the first initial time after COVID was about $28,000, $32,000. You know, and that was just for operational needs. You know, and that's not including labor, and that's before we even see any money. So to say to reopen up, it's easy. It's not. It costs a lot of money. You know, and a lot of people, you know, a lot of cooks like, oh, why can't they open it? They have money. I'm like, yeah, dude, but just because they have money doesn't mean they're going to spend it. That isn't how it works.
People with money don't just spend their money.
Exactly, and I have to give people examples all the time. Like, dude, if you have money, are you gonna spend it because of this or because of your neighbors? Like, no, you're gonna be like, fuck your neighbors, right? Like, it's your money. But again, it's right now currently, it's I'm doing, you know, a couple side projects, trying to keep busy, making things happen, and just, you know, waiting for things to get better, and slowly putting my hat back into the ring with different properties. But right now, some of the properties that I see out there, some of the opportunities, they're not the best. You know, and I would hate to kind of take something that I don't want or don't really believe in because of desperation or because I want to do something. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't benefit me or the property. If I take a job offer, you give me working for you, You know, great, I have this great chef. Yeah, that's amazing. But what if I leave in a month because hey, this property opened up and they're offering me double what you did? You know, or you know what if I what if I hate it there? What if I hate working there because you know, the food's not what I want to do, culture is not the same, not what I'm used to. It's just not beneficial for anyone. You know, so at this point, it's for me, it's like okay, I'd rather step back and oh wait, I'll let the business kind of do its thing.
Definitely. Chef Emerson that we had on a couple weeks ago shared some of those same remarks is, it's got to be how did we put it, a symbiotic relationship. It's got to work for both parties involved. If what I'm going to be doing is not benefiting you and, what you're giving me is not benefiting me, we can sit here and pretend that everything's going to be okay for a couple of months, but we know what's going to happen down the road. And
Yeah,
having
what are
that like
we,
real discussion.
right? What are we married?
Exactly. Well, Chef, we appreciate you coming on tonight. And before we let you go, where can our viewers, where can our followers, come check out what you got going on in LA and, just see what, Chef Ben Diaz is about.
Well, you guys can come check me out. I'm usually at the local farmers market in Pasadena, Santa Monica once in a while, and in Culver City, like I think every other Thursday. But for the most part, you can check me out on my website, cbdcuisine.com. Follow me on Instagram, CBD Cuisine, Chef Ben Diaz. I do a lot of different works there, different projects, and I'm always posting, updates. Currently, I'm working with a friend of mine in Gorman, California, to open up a facility. It's a private hotel, so that's keeping me entertained. Some people who do follow me have seen the progress and like, oh God, it's horrible. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's like Kitchen Nightmares. It's amazing. I love it. Seeing all the grime and making it work.
I saw your story today. It definitely was, you were in there.
Hey man, you can also see my work. With Messermeister, you can see I have all these beautiful knives back here, all furnished by Messermeister. All the beautiful Warren ice cream machine. Yeah, I mean, you can find me anywhere. I'm always open minded. You guys can shoot me messages, unless they're dirty messages. And if they're nudes, it better be good nudes, okay? Better be good lighting like this, okay? I don't want any of those shadowy nudes, all right? But besides that, yeah, I mean, you guys can find me anywhere. If you guys have any questions, concerns, just shoot them out my way. If you guys ever want to work with me, partner up on something, I'm always open to anything.
Awesome.
Next couple of months, I'll probably be in Ohio, hopefully the Culinary Vegetable Institute, and then
Oh, you're
before
gonna be Farmer Lee Jones.
I'm gonna try, man. But with this California, so it has that you have to quarantine for a week or two, and I'm like, ah, God, I don't want to do that. I come back. And in June, I may be going to Jamaica again. I try to go there once a year. I have a great partnership down there with Zimbali Retreats. It's a great culinary structure down there. It's a yardie farm. So you sign in, you get to eat some good food and smoke some good Jamaican ganja and enjoy the beautiful outdoors. It's amazing.
Oh, that sounds
That
lovely.
sounds
Sign
like
us
a
up.
retreat that me and Doug need to hit.
Amazing, right?
Me and Vlad will be on the plane with you. Put us in your suitcase.
Chef, it has been such a pleasure having you on tonight, and I just loved how real you kept it, and you brought back a lot of great memories just by the way you were visualizing things as you were describing them, and I really had a pleasure getting to know you a little bit better and hearing your perspective, and I just love the vibes. I love Cali vibes are always great. You guys are awesome people, and just the way you guys talk and the way you're so open about it and real about it. I loved it. So thank you so much for coming on, sharing your time, sharing your perspective. And, we're going to be in touch. We're going to be sharing a lot of love.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. We have more time next episode or some other time up to some crazy ass stories. I've seen some knives. I've seen some shootouts, all in the kitchen, man. I tell you that. It's insane. This is crazy.
Goodness, that definitely sounds like a good recap episode.
That sounds like part 2, right?
Yes,
That does
exactly.
sound like part 2.
Well, Chef, before we let you go, we do have to ask you. We've gotten some pretty crazy answers on this, and it's sort of been like I guess, a late night with chefs tradition at this point. But we always universally understand 86, to 86 something, but we're trying to find out the true origin of that word, and so. Do you have an idea of the origin? Do you have a story about where 86 came from, or why we universally use it?
Oh my God, I did research on this a couple of years ago too. It was hilarious, and I think I don't know if it's true. Don't quote me on this, but for my understanding, from what I heard, was because old time chefs, we used to get something For example, if the peppermill or the wine bottle was empty or something was empty, they'll grab it with their hand and throw it over their head outside the kitchen, and the movement of your hand was 86 degrees. So you're throwing the product 86 degrees over your head. And that's
We have not heard that one before. I love that.
Like, I'm like, what? I'm like, again, don't quote me on that, but that's what I did the research on. It might have been a fucking meme. I have no idea, but it had a diagram.
So 86-degree angle with your left hand coming past your left ear. Yeah.
Yeah, you're throwing something out of the kitchen. It's 86. Which is crazy. I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, fuck, that's the last time I say that. I'm just saying we're out for now on. We're out.
I love that there's 6 different variations to this story, and we've definitely heard some very interesting ones. And I appreciate you sharing with us. I appreciate you sharing that perspective with us because it was definitely a unique one. We have not heard that yet. I like that.
Yeah, no, that was an amazing story.
All right, Chef, and everybody else, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another Late Night with Chefs episode. Again, this is Chef Ben Diaz out of LA, doing a lot of really cool consultant things. Please check him out. And as always, thank you guys. Please stay safe and wear those masks.
Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and leave a lot of love for us. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Chef. And everybody have a wonderful, safe evening.
Peace, love.